And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, today we're going to be taking a look at Road Rally USA. Now, Road Rally USA is a game from Mayfair Games. It's part of their Fun Fair line. Games that are simple to get into, but as I have found out in the past, have a greater strategic depth. Road Rally is a game USA is a game where it says speed's not all you need, which is definitely true in this game. It is a racing game in which you're kind of racing cross country, but you're trying to be the first at checkpoints as you go along, not necessarily the first to win the race. Let me show you. At the beginning of the game, you're going to set up a race course made up of different tiles here. Each of these tiles has different spots on it that's built into a grid. Now, the game comes with a preset racetrack that you can set up following the guidelines. It doesn't really matter that much. The standard game lets you set it up any way you want. And so here, for example, I have set it up any way I've wanted to. And you're going to place some of these tokens from 1 to 21 on different spots on the board. These are diner spots. Each person is going to place their car at the starting line. All the cars look the same, although they don't look the same on the cards themselves. In fact, if I was showing you those 5 cars racing, which do you think would win? I don't think anybody would be putting money on this blue car, but in this race, he has just as much chance to win as everybody else. Now, what players are going to be doing is they're going to be drawing cards from their deck. Each person has a deck, and in that deck, they have 5 green 1s, they have 4 green 2s, they have 4 yellow 2s, 3 yellow 3s, 3 red 3s, and 2 red 4s. Now, the colors of those cards matter quite a bit, because on your turn, you can play as many cards as you want, but only of one color. So I could play, for example, 2 green 1s, which would allow me to go 2 spaces, or I could play a 4 and a 3 red, which will allow me to go 7, but I could not play a yellow and a green here for 4, as long as they're the same color. After you play them, you will take your car and you will move it the number of spaces of the cards that you just played. The cards that you played are discarded, and you will draw cards depending on what color you played. If you play green, you get to draw 2 cards. If you played yellow, you get to draw 1. If you play red, you get to draw none. If you have no cards in your hand for whatever reason, you'll take your discards, put them into your deck, shuffle it, and basically lose your turn. If you run out of cards in your deck and there's no cards to draw when it's your turn's over, the same thing will happen. Fortunately, there's a couple things that can help mitigate that. There's a few spaces on the board. If you land on a gas space, as shown there, upside down, on your next turn, you can reshuffle all your cards before going again. If you land here on the wrench, you can take the top 5 cards of your deck and basically put those in any order that you want. If you land on one of these signs here, checkpoint, you get 2 points, and the person in last place gets to draw 2 cards. And then finally, if you land here, on this spot here, the general store, you can play on your next turn, you can play up to 5 cards, and you can play any number of colors that you want, combining them, and then you get to draw 1 card. Now, all this stuff needs you to land on exactly. The biggest difference is passing these diners. At the beginning of the game, each player is going to get 4 cards. Now, when you're playing a standard game, which you should play, 2 of those will come from the B deck, and 2 of those will come from the A deck. So here, for example, I have checked the diners 1, 10, 13, and 17. Whenever any car passes a diner, after all the cars have gone, and at first the cars will go in the order that they've landed. After that, they'll go in position order. If 2 cars are in the same space, the car that got there first, which you put a little bit ahead of the other car, like this blue one, a little bit ahead of the gray, gets to go first. But whenever you pass a checkpoint, the player who has the card that matches that orange diner can play that card. They don't have to, but they can. If they do, then the player in the lead is going to get points. And that depends on how many players. Let's say it's a 5-player game, then the player who is in the lead is going to get 5 points. Second place gets 4 points, third place gets 3 points, fourth place gets 2 points, fifth place gets 1 point, although the 2 last places can draw more cards from their deck, 2 cards, instead of taking points. Points are given here on these little tiles here. This is a tile for points. And I'd like to say something here about something negative about the game, unfortunately. These points look nice. The problem is they've only printed them on one side, which I feel is a real shame because it looks annoying when you turn them upside down, especially with these numbers, trying to find the right number. These tile boards, even they were only printed on one side. What a great opportunity. Even if they had simply mirrored the image on the other side, it would allow you to build a greater variety of courses. So not the best, you know, scenario there, best quality, but everything else, I mean, it looks good. It just, you know, the two-sided tiles would have been really helpful. Now, players decide whether they'll do that checkpoint each time they pass one. If no one does it, nothing. If it does, then players score. Each person has 4 of these cards, but you can only use 2 of them over the course of a game. So you have to decide which checkpoints that you will score. Also, well, and maybe if you play the standard rules in a 3 or 4 player game, you can play 3 of your 4 checkpoints. But again, you do not have to play it, so if you're not in the lead. The person who plays the card will get double points. So if you're in 3rd place, you might consider taking 6 points, even though 1st place is going to get 5 points. And so that's the way the game will continue. The game will continue until people get to the finish line. At the finish line, you will score points just as if you passed one of these diners and someone played a card. So people are going to get points there. Whoever has the most points is the winner. Now, I've said kind of a negativeness about the component quality, and I really feel like the component quality isn't up to snuff here. The one-sided components, the lower quality of cards, I suppose that's so that the game can have a cheaper price point and get into a larger market for that reason. The game itself has the basic and advanced game, but the difference between them is almost minimal. I mean, it's just how you land on gas stations is somewhat different, and the fact that you can change the map rather than playing with the pre-programmed one, and a few other minor changes. It's very minor. I'm not even sure why there is 2 different games. Just play the game. The gameplay itself is very interesting. I really like how you can go really fast. I mean, this is the way that the race works. It goes. So one person gets way in the lead, but they're probably not going to stay there because eventually you're going to be able to catch up to them. The point is when you're in the lead. Am I in the lead when I pass the checkpoints? When to play your checkpoint card, because you want to be in the lead when you pass one of your checkpoint cards so that you can play it and double the 5 points and get 10. Also, where will you stop along the way? Stopping on that 5 cards of any color can be a really big deal at the right time. Saving a whole pile of yellow cards or red cards can be really useful, but at the same time, if you fall so far behind everyone else and several checkpoints are scored, you can lose. The gameplay is a little longer than I want it to. I think that if you took out several of the tracks, it would be better, and you can do that to play. They call it a sprint, a quick race, and I think that it plays a little better. It might wear out its welcome where it's at right now, but I did enjoy it. I like the whole card management. It's a very easy game to teach, and with the different spaces on the board that you're trying to land on exactly, and as you pass the different cards, it's not a complicated game. So it's a racing game that has a different feel for me. It's not one of the best racing games that I've played, but it certainly is one that I could use to introduce people to racing games without a whole lot of effort on their part. I could explain this game really in 5 minutes, and it's the back and forth. People will feel like they're really far behind at some point, but you can catch back up. And point totals, they might not be as close as you think they are, because it's clever landing of your cards on the spaces as the game progresses. Since everyone has the same deck, you pretty much all have the same chance. When you get your cards, obviously there's luck involved there, but when you play the cards is what's important to this game. So anyway, that's Road Rally USA. I think that it has a specific group who will like it, people who like racing games but don't want to put, watch how they hit the curves and all that. You don't have to worry about that nonsense here. You just go straight forward, play your cards as best you can, and kind of play like a leapfrog game to the finish line. Check it out.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find the latest board game news at Dicetowernews.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Fun Again Games, the world's best game source. Fun Again Games has over 5,000 games available. Check them out at funagain.com.
Shut the door.